For 800 millennia the war had raged. The conflict between the SCI-FI Dominion and the Zorak war clans had become something beyond reason, beyond strategy, an instinct passed down through generations like a hereditary disease. Their civilizations had reshaped themselves around battle, evolving war machines so vast and powerful that entire planets had been sacrificed just to fuel the production of more. Neither side remembered why the war had started. Neither side expected it to end. That was until it arrived. At first, no one understood what it was. A single ship. Unidentified. Unregistered. Unbelievable. It had not entered the war zone like a cowardly observer, skulking at the edges of the fray, nor had it been sent by either faction. Instead, it had arrived directly between the two largest armadas ever assembled. A cosmic battlefield where 1 trillion lives had been lost over the centuries. A massive, dark warship, its surface gleaming with an unknown alloy, reflecting the dim light of the burning stars around it. It bore no markings of any known empire. The moment it appeared, everything stopped. For the first time in 800,000 years, silence fell over the war-torn void. Who dares? The Zorak Grand Warlord was the first to break the stunned silence. His fleet, a juggernaut of over 50,000 dreadnoughts, had been poised for an all-out offensive that would have annihilated another 3 Zorak worlds. The unknown ship did not respond. It merely floated. SCI-FI High Command immediately assumed it was a new Zorak superweapon. The Zorak believed it was an experimental SCI-FI construct. Both sides hesitated, and in a war where hesitation was extinction, that alone was unprecedented. Then the ship spoke. A transmission swept across every known frequency, overriding communications, jamming military networks. The voice was deep, calm, and unmistakably human. This war ends today. The words were simple. Absolute. The response? Laughter. A challenge beyond madness. The SCI-FI High strategist sneered. This fool believes a single ship can stop our war? The Zorak war clans erupted into guttural roars of amusement. Let them come. Let them prove their madness in battle. The unknown ship had no fleet. No reinforcements. No grand battle formations or tactical positions. Yet it moved. And everything changed. The first to die were the scouts. Not by weapons fire, no beam or missile was launched, but by pure proximity. The moment their ships entered a 5,000-kilometer radius of the human warship, they simply ceased to exist. No explosion. No debris. Just nothingness. Panic spread. The Zorak sent 10,000 destroyers to encircle the unknown vessel. Not a single one made it. The SCI-FI, more cautious, launched a barrage of planet-cracking rail slugs at the intruder. The projectiles struck, but instead of impact, the slugs vanished. As if space itself had erased them. For the first time in 800,000 years, both sides did something they had forgotten how to do. They hesitated. And in that hesitation the human ship acted. The silence didn't last. War, when fought for long enough, becomes a reflex. The commanders of the SCI-FI Dominion and the Zorak war clans were not beings who understood peace. Their entire civilizations had been sculpted by violence, their very identities built upon the unyielding certainty of war. So, they did what they had always done. They attacked. Minute 1. The SCI-FI Grand Armada, a fleet of 250,000 capital ships, unleashed a stellar hurricane of weapons fire. Planet-buster torpedoes, hyper-accelerated antimatter rounds, dimensional warheads capable of unraveling entire star systems. The Zorak warborn host, a berserker swarm of 400,000 warships, launched an onslaught of annihilation beams so intense they had once erased a moon mid-orbit. A combined assault of such magnitude had never before been unleashed at a single target. It was overkill. Beyond overkill. It was an extinction-level event, a force so overwhelming it would have shattered even the strongest Dyson barriers, reduced entire planetary civilizations to cosmic dust. It should have ended the warship. Instead, it revealed something far worse. The moment the barrage struck, space itself screamed. The stars twisted. Light distorted. The void surrounding the human vessel seemed to ripple, as if rejecting reality itself. Then, everything stopped. The weapon's fire never reached the warship. Not because it was blocked. Because it had been unmade. Not vaporized. Not deflected. Not absorbed. Simply erased. Minute 2. Panic set in. The Zorak and SCI-FI, for all their war-hardened instincts, had no contingency for something like this. No doctrine, no countermeasure, no understanding of what they were facing. For the first time in their existence, they were confronted by a force they could not kill. Then the human ship responded. Not with weapons. Not with missiles or beams or even words. It simply moved. Minute 3. The warship accelerated, not in the way conventional ships did, burning fuel or bending space. It shifted, vanishing from one point and reappearing in another. No delay. No inertia. One moment it was floating among the fleets. The next, it was at the very heart of the SCI-FI command formation. And then, things began to disappear. First, an escort squadron of 49 battlecruisers. They were there one moment, gone the next. Then the Zorak Warbeast-class dreadnoughts. 30 of them. Erased. Not destroyed. Not shattered. Erased. There was no wreckage. No explosion. No bodies. Only the cold, unbroken void where once there had been entire fleets. Minute 4. The SCI-FI high strategist was the first to break. This is not war, she gasped, horror creeping into her voice. This is something else. Something worse. The Zorak warlord did not answer. He was too busy staring as his unstoppable war machine was unmade before his very eyes. For 800,000 years they had fought, had endured every weapon imaginable. Yet not once had they encountered this. The human ship had not fired a single shot. It was not fighting them. It was erasing them. Minute 5. The warship spoke again. This war is over. The voice was calm, cold. But this time there was no laughter. Only fear. The war had lasted for nearly 1,000,000 years, and now in 5 minutes both factions had realized the same horrifying truth. They were not the apex predators of this galaxy. The battlefield, once a roaring inferno of destruction, had fallen into dead silence. The combined war fleets of the SCI-FI Dominion and the Zorak war clans, numbering in the hundreds of thousands, hung motionless in space, their weapons cold, their formations shattered. The human warship had done nothing but move. And yet, entire fleets had ceased to exist. No debris. No escape pods. No survivors. Just absence. For a species bred in war, raised to kill, sculpted by 800,000 years of bloodshed, nothing could have been more terrifying. The commanders had no response. They had never known fear like this. Minute 6. The warlord of the Zorak, a being who had personally bathed in the blood of 1,000 conquered species, spoke at last. His voice, once filled with the rage of war, was now shaking. Are you? The human ship did not respond. It simply moved again. Minute 7. This time it touched something. SCI-FI battle station, one of the indestructible deep space fortresses that had endured entire millennia of war, shielded by layered gravity wells and quantum-locked armor. The moment the warship's shadow fell upon it, it was gone. No energy burst. No destruction. Just gone. The high strategist of the SCI-FI watched in horror. That station had survived 10,000 apocalyptic sieges. The human warship had erased it without firing a shot. Minute 8. Panic spread. This was not war. War was something they understood. This was annihilation beyond logic. The SCI-FI and Zorak did not fear death. But this was something else entirely. This was erasure from existence. Minute 9. The warship spoke again. You do not understand what you are fighting. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't a boast. It was simply a fact. The warlord of the Zorak bared his fangs. He was a warrior, a warlord of a species that had conquered entire galaxies. But his voice cracked. Then make us understand. The human ship paused. Then it answered. Minute 10. This is not a war. This is your extinction. Silence. Cold. Empty. Silence. The war had lasted 800,000 years. But the next 10 minutes would decide if their entire species would continue to exist. The words of the human warship echoed across the vast, dark battlefield. This is not a war. This is your extinction. The warlord of the Zorak and the high strategist of the SCI-FI felt something neither had experienced in their long, brutal lives. Powerlessness. They had led armadas that shattered civilizations. They had conquered entire sectors of space without hesitation. Now, in mere minutes, a single human warship had brought them to their knees. Their fleets, hundreds of thousands strong, were frozen in fear. But the human ship wasn't done. It moved again. Minute 11. The ship was now positioned directly between the two war fleets, an act of insulting arrogance. Normally this was suicidal. But every time the warship moved, something vanished. Not exploded. Not destroyed. Vanished. And it didn't seem to care what it touched. Battleships. Carriers. Dreadnoughts. Entire capital worlds. It erased them like they had never existed. The high strategist of the SCI-FI collapsed into his command throne. His species had survived apocalypse after apocalypse, forged an endless war. But not this. There was no enemy strategy to counter. There was no weakness to exploit. They were fighting something beyond war itself. Minute 12. A desperate order rang out. Fire everything. Minute 13. The entire war fleet of two civilizations opened fire. Every plasma lance, every quantum missile, every planet-cracking weapon in their arsenal. A billion-degree inferno engulfed the human warship. Minute 14. The flames vanished. The warship remained untouched. The fleet officers stared in horror. The human ship had not even activated its shields. Because it didn't need to. Minute 15. The high strategist's voice shook. We surrender. Minute 16. The warlord of the Zorak, the most ruthless killer in the known universe, followed. We surrender. Silence. Then the warship's voice returned. Cold. Unfeeling. Surrender? You misunderstand. The war is already over. Minute 17. The warship moved again. Entire planetary strongholds vanished. Entire homeworlds disappeared. Not just the fleets. Their civilizations themselves were being erased. The high strategist gasped. This wasn't conquest. This wasn't vengeance. This was a surgical extinction. Minute 18. A single plea. Why? The human warship finally answered. Because humanity never wanted this war. You forced our hand. And now we are closing it. Minute 19. The last of the war fleets collapsed. The strongest warriors of 800,000 years of battle begged for mercy. None came. Minute 20. The Zorak homeworld, the SCI-FI capital. Both vanished. And with them so did their entire legacy. Minute 50. The human warship was alone. Where once two empires had stood, only silence remained. The war was over. It had lasted 800,000 years. But in the end, it had only taken 50 minutes to erase them from history. Humanity had spoken. And the universe would never forget. Fire, did this send chills down your spine? Subscribe now, because humanity's story is just beginning. Rocket fire.